Hey everybody, Megan here, the faithful fibromyalgia warrior. Thank you so much for those of you who are joining live, and appreciate all of you watching this later on in replay mode. So I know it's been a little while since I've done a live or even really a recorded video. And just to let you know, in case you're worried for any reason, I've not been ill. I have been absolutely fine. I've been quite well, actually. My poor husband actually has been fighting off a virus for the past 2, 3 weeks. And he finally is starting to feel human again. But for me personally, I've actually just had so many great things I've been trying to do, trying to pack into my life, that I didn't stop to do any of this. And actually, the other reality is I would have these moments where I would feel so thankful and inspired from all that God has done in my life, but I would feel like, how do I start that conversation? How do I share about that? I mean, I don't have a theme, I don't have a topic or a title, and I didn't know how to put it together as a video. I felt like it had to be more finished, if you will. And today I realized, no, that's not true. In fact, I'm so full of thankfulness today. I just want to talk about everything that's been happening. So just to let you guys know, um, if you saw either of my last two videos, I did talk about the fact that I actually vacuumed our bungalow. Now, it is a bungalow. We have, well, technically, two full bedrooms out, my husband's and mine, our older sons, and then there's the room I'm in here now. You can see the bed in the background. This was our younger son's room. He, of course, as I've shared before, he has actually moved back to Canada indefinitely, till whenever he decides he wants to come back here. And so it is the guest room slash office slash where the greyhound Billy sleeps. In fact, I will even show you little Billy boy over here. Oh, good thing I made the bed today. There he is. He's so cute. So that's his space, of which he is very protective. Um, and although it is a bungalow and therefore relatively small, the fact that I could do any of the vacuuming a week ago and I did not feel any additional pain, oh my goodness, that honestly to me that felt miraculous, because for years I could not even do that. If I did any sort of reaching out of any kind, any sort of a gentle, even gentle stretching would feel so incredibly painful to my body. I was so inflamed. I was so fat and so sick that I couldn't do anything without adding to the pain I was already in. And the fact that I have actually just now been able to do that with no rebound pain, and I didn't have, and I never had any at all, by the way. Full stop, full disclosure, I have had no rebound pain whatsoever. Um, I'm able to actually stand up straight and practice good posture. I'm doing the best to my ability to make sure I'm sitting straight and upright. The thing that I found for myself now, if you guys have lower back pain at all, this might be the same for you also. But I found, because the disc that bulged for me was in my lower back, between the L4 and L5 vertebra, which means, for those who don't know, those are the bottom two bones in the lumbar part of the spine, which is at the bottom end of the spine. It's where the bottom of the spine meets with the sacrum, which then is attached to excuse me, your coccyx, your tailbone. Okay, so because of where the disc bulged, and because it didn't cause any sort of paralysis, thankfully, I'm very grateful to God that is the case. It has, however, caused ongoing chronic pain by irritating the spinal nerves, and the doctors suspect it was the final trigger that caused my fibromyalgia to flare up out of control. Um, and in spite of taking the medication for the back pain, in spite of taking the gabapentin, as well as the sertraline to help try to block the signals my brain was sending to my nerves to say you are in pain when in fact there was no injury. That is, by the way, if you don't know, if you do know, feel free to ignore this little comment. But if you don't know what fibromyalgia is, um, basically means soft tissues. Myalgia means widespread pain. Now, I can't remember if that comes from Greek or Latin, but it's an ancient language that it comes from. That's basically what it means. So those of us with fibromyalgia will have pain in our behind our neck, sort of between the base of our neck and the top of our back and across, so to the shoulders, sometimes along the sides and over the shoulders here, as well as across the upper chest, as well as up in the front forearms, or the front, yeah, upper arms, sorry, as well as the what would be called, what I call the fleshy part of the forearms. I would always get tingling and burning there. And often it's hard to see because I'm wearing black jeans in front of a black chair, but basically your hip flexors. So from what I understand, those ligaments that allow your hips to actually flex and move. So your legs can go back, back and forth when you walk or run or what have you. There's often pain in the hip flexor area, as well as in the groin area, as well as in the front of the thighs, as well as sometimes the back of the thighs, the outer thighs. In my case, I had them from the shin down to the ankle and also in my calves. So pretty much everywhere. I don't know if they do this anymore, but there used to be what they refer to as the 13 pain points or pain pressure points. And what would happen is, in order to rule out, say, rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, which from my understanding, a lot of those physical symptoms are very similar to fibromyalgia. And the only way to rule them out is through blood tests, because there are certain markers that will show up if you have, say, RA or lupus. And I was seen by three or four different rheumatologists. And they continuously said to the GP, no, it is not lupus. It's definitely not RA. Although I did find out that I have OA, which is osteoarthritis, which I guess is where the joints feel swollen, where they're worn down through repeated use. So that could be because I was very active as a kid. Used to go swimming a lot in the summer, used to do winter sports like ice hockey or just skating for fun, sledding, skiing with my family when I was younger. And you get spills and chills and thrills with all of those activities. In addition to, I'd had a couple of really bad slips and falls after I had my children. I've had two children, so your balance, and for women who have had kids, your pelvic area widens a bit, right, to make room for babies, and then it doesn't quite go back fully to what it once was, and so your balance is slightly altered. All of that, plus repetitive motions, like constantly bending over, whether you're picking up a child, whether you're picking up dirty socks off the floor, whether you're picking up Six Sons, my goodness. Well, hi there, Curious Kate. It's great to hear from you. I have two boys. Two is more than enough. I love my sons dearly, but I have great respect for anybody who's had more than that. My older son is 22. He'll be 23 this October. My younger son is 19, and he's going to be 20 in June. So we're at the stage of life now where they are very much grown up and a bit more independent. My older son does have autism, but he is extremely high functioning. So, his whole room is set up. He's got a TV in there and DVD player, stereo, vinyl player, all that kind of thing. But he is definitely interested in trying to get out and move out on his own, um, which we would like to see with some supervision. He needs a little help remembering when to turn off, say, the oven and the stovetop. So when it's just him at home, we make sure that anything he has, he can heat in the microwave. Well, yeah, I can imagine after 6 boys. Wow, my goodness. I guess you must be quite happy that they are grown at this point. But I wonder, do you have grandchildren then? Out of curiosity, perhaps not yet. Our 19-year-old is working as a chef in Canada at the place that where his older cousin happens to be a general manager. So he's learning so much. He is going to be getting his apprenticeship paperwork in next week. He's, loving it there. He has not been back in snow. Really, since he was 6. Like when we moved to England, he was 6 and his brother was 9. So we've been here for 13 years, just over. And my husband and I have no plans to move back to Canada at all. We don't, we'll go back and visit family and friends that we have there, but for the most part, I don't want to move back there personally. And people always ask me, well, why? I said, well, for one thing, when you start full-time employment, you get automatically you get 21 days, and then you get an extra, typically anywhere from 5 to 8 bank holidays. Canada, you get 10. That's it. And typically only if you've been working for a year. Like you can take time off, but you're not paid for it in that case. So right away, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. And I like the fact that it is February the 18th and it is 14 degrees Celsius outside. I had a sweater on because I've been up since 6, and it was too warm. I took the sweater off. I'm nice and perfectly comfortable. So I'll take that. I know it's not going to last for very long, but I will take it. 4 grandkids. Oh, wow. That's wonderful. Well, congratulations. I know that time will come at some point, but as we've said to both the boys, it's like, guys, there's no rush. Enjoy life, enjoy being independent and figuring out what you want to do with life. And when God's timing is right, you will find the right person. And I believe that. So if that's meant to happen, then I have no doubt that it will. So, I was starting on this carnivore way of eating. I started it in June of 2020. If you guys don't know my videos or you aren't familiar with my story, I will try to tell you what it is briefly. I tend to run on a bit, but I will try not to do that today. So basically, I have struggled with being bulimic for 35 years. So I started having an eating disorder when I was around 12, 13. I'm 50 now. I'll be 51 in August. And my weight always went up and down. Now, I had no idea that it was because I was eating foods either A, I couldn't tolerate, or B, were causing me to bloat and retain water, and in fact, were making me worse instead of making me better. So, like whole wheat bread or whole wheat toast slathered in margarine. Horrible. I was eating loads and loads and loads of fruit and vegetables. Now, it always gave me gas. It always would upset my stomach, but I had no idea that was not a normal thing. I thought that was supposed to happen because they were fruit and vegetables. I kept eating them. I didn't stop eating big salads. I didn't stop eating, broccoli and cauliflower. It wasn't until in 2007 when I ended up developing IBS, and the gastroenterologist said, look, things like broccoli and cauliflower and onions and garlic, lay off because that's going to make this worse. And I thought, okay, sure, fair enough. And I gave those few vegetables up, but I was still eating unbelievable amounts of carrots. I was still eating cooked spinach. I was still, eating um, dark leafy greens like romaine lettuce and things that honestly, for me, were causing me nothing but upset gut because I was told the more fiber I ate, the better I would get. And that didn't work. It did not work. And actually, as I've learned from Professor Bart Kay, as I've learned from Dr. Ken Berry, as I've learned from uh, watching Tailored Keto Health, which is Rebecca Heichman, as I've watched quite a few great people out on YouTube, the thing that I've come to learn is that we can eat vegetables if we choose, and we can certainly eat some of the fruits in season if we choose, but the requirement for them is none. The human body does not need any carbohydrates to function, like at all. And that was such a great thing, but also a weird thing for me to understand. So, what happened was starting in, okay, so I injured my back taking laundry out of the dryer. My disc prolapsed. I could actually feel it. I could feel the bulge of it under my skin, like just to the right of my spine. And it took a few months to finally get sent for an MRI, and they confirmed, yep, your disc is bulged. It has prolapsed. Okay, now what? Oh, we'll send you to pain management. Now, I'm really thankful to God that I did not have to have surgery because there's no guarantee that it would have gotten rid of the pain, and there's no guarantee it would have actually fixed anything. However, here I was left in pain from this disc. Now, when I hurt myself, it was so bad. I was like folded like this. I could not sit up more than that. That's how much it hurt. I tried just paracetamol, which would be equivalent to Tylenol in North America. I was on as much of the regular stuff as I could put in my system. I was taking ibuprofen as well. I was using a TENS machine nonstop, went through several of the sticky pads, like wore through them, and it was not helping. And I remember, and by the time it was November of 2014, I even got sent for a cortisol injection, which made me feel even worse than when I first got injured. Now, it was so crazy. The bulge was so bad that my right hip ended up higher than my left. And even though I went and saw an osteopath thinking it'll just be an adjustment, I'll probably feel much better. I went to see one twice. I did all the recommended exercises, like every single one. I followed them to the letter. It didn't matter because after a couple weeks, everything shifted back to where it was before. And I was just feeling worse and worse and worse. And then suddenly I noticed in September of 2014, it wasn't just my back that was bothering me. I started having all the pain that is associated, say, with fibromyalgia, which I also happen to have. That started to overtake everything else. So I had the back pain, and then I had all the burning and the tingling and the nerves that would spasm, and I didn't know what was going on. So fast forward a year later, after being told I also had Raynaud's and I had osteoarthritis, and yes, my IBS was still there, and being finally told, yes, I knew a fibromyalgia. So it was good to know what I was dealing with, but the frustration was at that point, there wasn't really anything that modern medicine could do. They gave me the maximum amount of medication they could, given the fact that if I went on to anything higher like morphine, my IBS was already bad enough. The constipation was horrible. I was lucky if I had a bowel movement once every few weeks. Kid you not. So I couldn't go to any higher. level of pain medication, and I didn't want to. I felt most of my life at that point that I was just the zombie, and probably because of the brain fog. Yes, absolutely. But the medication wasn't helping. And I felt like I didn't know what to do, what my life was going to be about. I had lost purpose. I could barely even, spend time with God anymore. I mean, the way I thought of it is like I know He's there. He knows I love Him. That's all I can manage right now. That's where I was at. Okay, and then so October 2019, I'm told my LDL cholesterol was too high. Uh, okay, not great. And even more concerning is my triglycerides were double the level of the maximum allowed on the range of what was deemed acceptable. Okay, twice what it should have been. I was not eating cakes and cookies every day, not at all. I was drinking a lot of coffee with either sugar or sweetener and milk. Yes, that was definitely a part of it. But even more than that, I was eating loads of fruit, like loads of fruit. And the fructose is what was causing the biggest impact, causing my triglycerides to go up. And what did that mean? That meant I was starting to have fatty liver disease at 48. Wow. I mean, it's crazy. I wasn't eating any more than I did beforehand. I wasn't drastically changing my diet at that time, but all of that stuff had caught up finally. Given the fact I also had an underactive thyroid, which can also be a symptom of um, fibromyalgia, and I felt trapped. I didn't know what to do, and I got all this information from the specialist regarding my triglycerides. And yeah, I'm going to have to start taking um, levothyroxine, which is a thyroid hormone replacement drug. Why? Because as much as I was making it, it wasn't nearly enough. And considering I think it's only 20% of the T4 that gets made is actually converted over, so it's usable by the body. So I wasn't even making enough to make up the 20% my body required in order to use it to help with things like digestion and sex hormone health, and so things like your regular cycles, and affecting things like your hair, whether it was dry or healthy, your skin, whether it was flaky or easily irritated. And my rosacea was really, really bad, like really bad. It's almost fully gone now. It has dramatically calmed down, but it was horrible. And then of course, so this was what, March, I think 19th or 20th, and then 3 days later we were told the whole country was going into lockdown. So just like many of us, I decided, well, since I might die tomorrow, screw the recommendations. I'm going to enjoy to eat whatever I feel like eating. And again, it wasn't necessarily loads of junk, but it was a lot of processed stuff, or stuff that was heavy in seed oils, right? Like Indian takeaways. So, the chicken kormas, which the chicken would have been fine, but all that coconut milk and cream, anti-nutrients. I didn't know that then. And plus all the rice was not helping for me to get rid of weight, any sort of fat or weight loss. It was just adding to it. Because all those carbs, all they do is they turn into glucose in the body. That's it. Doesn't matter what the carb is. Doesn't matter if it's a high glycemic index or a low one. All carbohydrates will break down into glucose in the body, other than fruit, which becomes fructose. And that is not good for the system. Like if it was July and I decided I wanted to have a little bit of apple because they happen to be in season, that would probably be okay. I avoid fruit because I cannot have just one. I have to have more. And it spikes up my sugar too much. So I avoid fruit. Okay. I like fruit, but it doesn't like me back. And the same goes for vegetables. So I eat meat. Um, I tried to follow a paleo sort of elimination diet, and it was a horrible idea. It was all about seeds and nuts and dark leafy greens for the first few weeks. Talk about the absolute worst things to eat for me. It seemed to be helping my husband, but it was awful for me. I felt nauseated. I was hungry, but I felt sick at the same time. So I needed to find something else because at this point, end of May, mid June of 2020, I was 200 pounds. 200 pounds. Okay. I'm only 5 foot 5 inches. Now I'm about 120, 122, somewhere in there. Um, that's where I should be for my age, for my frame, for my activity levels. Okay. Not at 200. And it's no wonder I was in so much pain. All of that inflammation, plus the actual fat and the water weight just putting pressure on my joints. I had to get rid of it. I didn't know how. I knew that just starving myself wasn't going to work. And if I did that, I would be right back to bulimia again, which I didn't want. So I went on YouTube, went to see, let me see, how can I try to lose weight? In other words, body fat, when I can't exercise because of the fibro pain. I couldn't exercise at that point. And I found keto. So I started there, but I very quickly found my way to carnivore because as I found I was getting rid of more and more things, as I was eliminating more and more things that were causing me issues, um, basically I ended up eating meat, egg yolks, and sometimes a bit of butter. And that was it. Now, I've had moments where I've also allowed dairy in. And that has ultimately, over time, not been a good thing. I noticed that today. Now, I will just say this, I typically would drink black coffee. Some people don't. That's fine. Some of us still like it. That's okay. Whatever people choose. Um, but I thought that perhaps my body was trying to tell me I needed just a little bit of milk in my coffee, like just a tablespoon, right? So it wasn't too hot, so it wouldn't feel like it was burning my gut. And so I would have mostly black coffee and maybe a cappuccino. And that was okay for a bit. But then I noticed this week that I almost any cup of coffee I had, whether it was one I made at home, whether it was one I had going out, had to have milk in it. And what I also noticed was like this fuzzy feeling in the roof of my mouth and like a earache developing in my left ear and stiffness in the back of my neck. And when I was out today enjoying a cappuccino, I couldn't finish it. I got about halfway through and realized I couldn't have the rest of it because it was making me feel nauseous. And so for me, that's a sign that, guess what? I got to get rid of the dairy again because it has not been helping me. It hasn't. Um, I've noticed a little bit of water retention around the tummy. Now, that could also be because I'm in perimenopause, uh, which is fine. I expect that. I am 50. Fine, no problem. It's been great. No cycle for 3 months. I'm loving that. That's awesome. But I also know my hormones are kind of trying to figure out their role at the moment. So that's part of that. But I kind of freaked out a bit. I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, my weight's gone up slightly. I had such a panic the other day. I was so worried. Okay, so for somebody who's now got recovery from bulimia, and I have to say that it's been a few weeks since I've actually struggled with those feelings and those desires. It doesn't mean that they're not going to ever happen again, but I've not felt that in some time, which is amazing. It's the longest I've gone without struggling that way. And wearing wearing clothes that flatter me and I know fit me, getting rid of clothes that don't fit. Why keep it? If it doesn't fit and it doesn't flatter, don't wear it. That's my new mantra, right? So you can imagine I got something on the jeans I had on earlier. And I love those jeans. They're my favorite jeans. And I don't know what happened. Something mixed with them in the wash, and they're this weird kind of bleachy pattern. Just fine, I suppose, right? But of course, I wanted to wear those today. I got something on them, had to change. I put on a different pair of blue jeans. The only difference, they're the same size, okay, from the same store. The other ones I have are a little bit darker. The ones that are my favorite are have a high waist, so they fall just right over my hips, and then they flare out, which that's my favorite look is the flare. Okay, these other ones were flares, but they were a mid-rise, so they sit on the widest part of the hip. Which, you know what, if you are more of a rectangle shape, fantastic. It'll give you curves. I think that's a great thing. But for me, I know that they fit. I know they're the right size, but I don't like how they fit on me. Now, in the past, that would have had me in emotional turmoil. So I just went, you know what? I'm not going to keep these. Yes, they fit fine, but they're not the most flattering because of where the waistband sits. And so why would I wear something that doesn't make me feel confident? So instead of freaking out like I would usually do, I actually just folded them up, put them aside. I have a bag of stuff that's going to be, donate to Goodwill or whomever. And somebody else, I hope, will get good use out of them. They've been barely worn, but I realized, you know what? Why would I keep these when I know I don't like how they fit me? Not because I suddenly put on weight or got fatter, simply because of the style. And I don't know, this might be something guys struggle with, but I think we women especially struggle with this. Um, Wearing clothes that flatter instead of just wearing something simply because it's the latest craze. I see all these young girls out with these massive wide leg cargo jeans. And you know what? I do not suit a wide leg jean. I got a pair, didn't like them, returned them. Um, I do have a pair of high waisted, wide leg trousers, but they're very flowy material. So they flow and they flatter, right? And I love those. It gives me a feeling of like 1930s, sort of satin trousers that maybe Ginger Rogers would have worn. That's the vibe I get from those. But these ones with giant pockets and what have you, hey, if you're like 16 or even 26 and you can pull it off, go for it. That's not me. And I'm learning that that's okay. So that's one big thing. Um, I've really been trying to get out of my head a whole lot more than I have in the past. And yes, priority one, walking with God. You know, I say this and I have said this and I will say it again. And I read something that somebody also wrote and it was perfect, which is meat is the medicine, but God is the doctor. And it's so true. I mean, there's a reason why we were given the animals for our food, right? And, obviously, occasionally fruit for those who lived in climates where fruit was available. Why? To fatten us up a bit in between hunts. But I don't believe God ever intended for us to eat nothing but wheat. We, in our greed as humans, hunted all the big animals to the point of extinction instead of figuring out how to be more efficient, how to share with others, how to store meat. That took centuries to figure that out. And meanwhile, a lot of stuff got wasted. But I believe his plan was always that we would be nourished by animals. You know, it's in Genesis chapter 1. Even throughout Genesis, certainly in one, but even when you go to say chapter 5 or 6, and he's talking to Noah, sorry, 9, where he reminds Noah that he has not only the wild animals, but also the livestock, and for them to be eaten. Why? Because they are the things that will provide the essential amino acids and nutrients that our body needs to survive. Um, and that to me, I'm just reminded of how blessed I am. I can go to any grocery store and I can grab meat without any problem. And even though there was, I don't know if there still is, but there had been an issue with finding eggs. I can get eggs still. And even if I couldn't get eggs to have the yolks, I still have meat. And whether that's beef, lamb, pork. It's available at the grocery store. There is a halal butcher in town if I wanted to go to them. We have a butcher that we go to every month, that's about 45 minutes drive away. And we get all of our meat, like for our dinner meals, all ordered a month at a time. And it's great. So I never have to wonder, what are we going to have for tonight? So I usually eat the same thing every day. 20% fat ground beef. I fry it in the pan. I add a little bit of salt. I add in a cup of 2 egg yolks typically. And I also fry up a couple of big pieces of butcher's bacon. So it's extra, extra crispy. Put it all together on a plate. That's what I usually eat. I will eat sometimes like mixed donors. So that would be lamb, donor meat, and chicken if it's not too seasoned. I don't do it often because they do have some seed oils in there, but I think the fact that there's meat and protein kind of balances out a bit. So I'll eat that. I also enjoy lamb chops or meat from leg of lamb. So I'll throw that in the slow cooker. Or I did last week, I threw it in the slow cooker on a Sunday, and we had that to come home to after church. It was great. I'll do the same with brisket. We get every now and again, we'll get like an unsmoked gammon joint, and I'll chuck that in the oven, and then I'll let my son and my husband have that for dinner with eggs. I'm not a big fan of the gammon. I don't know what it is. I can do sausages or sausage meat. I can do bacon, no problem. I actually was at our Sainsbury's, was it yesterday or the day before, and they actually had out ground pork mince, but it was 20% fat, and it's delicious because normally I wouldn't even bother because it's too lean for my taste. Okay, it doesn't satiate me, but this stuff, amazing. It was amazing. So this morning I just had a bit of 20% fat ground beef, 20% fat ground pork, added a bit of salt, a couple of egg yolks. Oh my goodness, it was like, it was amazing. And there are people who think, well, isn't that limiting? But actually, I don't feel like that. And the thing that has helped me so much is how the food has helped me heal physically so that I could heal emotionally, but more importantly, spiritually. And you know what? I was with the church ages ago. That's where I met my husband. We had to walk away from it because of a lot of internal political issues going on. We've now come back to this fantastic faith community out of East London. Now, we live about an hour north and east of London, of East London, that is. But I'm happy I'm grateful when we get to travel down there on a Sunday. Sometimes, we meet all together. Sometimes you just meet in someone's home, or sometimes it's online, right? But getting to know some really fantastic people. When there was a time I didn't know that I would ever feel that joy from fellowship. And if I had not been able to turn back to God with a clear mind, it never would have happened. And so when I started, yes, keto helped me get started to start losing the weight, start losing the fat, start losing, more importantly, the inflammation and the unbelievable pain, so that it was moderate as opposed to acute and sharp every single day. And I didn't even notice it immediately. It's one of those things where you get so used to how something feels that even if it changes, you don't necessarily realize it's changed. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how it was for me. I was down, oh, I don't know, say by the end of August of 2020, I was down almost 20 pounds already, which was unheard of. I'd never ever lost that much weight in my life ever. Not after either of my pregnancies, never. Not even when I was bulimic and I was restricting, not when I was binging and purging, not at all. If I got the scale to move 1 or 2 pounds, that was a big deal. And it never lasted. And it was all about punishing myself, hating myself, feeling like God must have been punishing me and abandoning me. And that's why it was happening. But when I noticed the weight was coming off, I couldn't believe it was real. I was so accepting. I had come to so accept the fact that I was just going to be stuck in chronic pain, in poor health, and being obese the rest of my adult life. I'd given up hope completely. I truly had given up hope. I thought, next thing I know, I'm going to be on insulin medication or something like that. What else could possibly go wrong after all these other medical diagnoses? And no hope of any change. I tried all the traditional recommendations of, cortisol injection and physiotherapy, hydrotherapy. They put me on a waiting list for acupuncture treatment or acupressure, I should say. And then 3 days before I was supposed to go in finally for that appointment, my husband and I were in our car coming home from London. We got rear-ended by somebody who didn't have her sunglasses on, didn't have her visor down, and wasn't paying attention. Yeah. So that was fun. So that acupressure never happened. And since then I've had a couple of UTIs, bladder infection. I had kidney infection 2 years ago. I can't recall now. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. Maybe it was last year. But even then, oh, and I gave myself food poisoning. I left liver in the fridge out raw for too long. Didn't know that it was an issue. I thought it would be the same as lamb in that you could leave it chilled and uncooked for a few days and then cook it up and it would be fine. No, no. So luckily for me, not luckily for me, but nobody else got sick because nobody else wanted to eat liver but me at that point. So I've been a little bit like, I'm just not going to eat that stuff right now. I would be willing to try other organs, perhaps, if they were on offer at a good restaurant where I know that they know what they're doing and as far as preparing the stuff. But otherwise, I'm good, And by the way, people who want to eat organs, feel free, but you don't have to. And people, if they choose to eat some of their meat raw, it's odd to me, but that's fine. That's their thing, but you do not have to eat it raw. And there is no noticeable difference in benefit between whether you cook your meat or whether you eat it raw. Just going to put that out there. There's a lot of stuff out in this space at the moment. But what I came to realize, and especially from watching Rebecca Heischman, Tailored Keto Health, is that the most important thing for me, once my brain fog was gone, was my relationship with God. Because if I didn't have that, nothing else would matter. If I didn't have that faith and that relationship with God that I desperately wanted and desperately needed, any of the changes I made were never going to last. I was going to go right back to my severe anxiety. I was going to be right back into social panic. I was going to be right back into bouts of depression. And no matter what I ate, even if it was like, as Dr. Ken Berry would say, grass-raised, grass-finished, panda-massaged cattle, beef, right? Like the primo, like Wagyu beef or whatever, would make zero difference if I was not walking with God and putting my trust in him and my faith in him. And so when I say that meat heals and God is a doctor, not just my physical person. You know, I lost 80 pounds, which is, I think, what is that in kilos? Like 40 kilos, something like that, about 40 kilos between June of 2020 and the start of December of 2020. I lost 80 pounds. Wow. And that was just by cutting out all the processed crap, all the sugar, whether it was refined sugar or whether it was fructose from fruit. I cut all of that stuff out. And the reason I know it worked is because my triglycerides are finally well under what they consider to be an acceptable range. So I think I wrote it down here because I couldn't believe it really. So in October of 2019, oh, I should say, the acceptable range for triglycerides here in the UK, at least as of 2019, the acceptable range is between zero point 0.3 and 2.3 millimoles per liter. Okay. As on October 21st of 2019, my triglycerides were 4.31. So again, the highest level of acceptable was 2.3, and I was at 4.31. That's almost double what it should have been. By August the 5th of 2021, just last time I had to go in for a checkup, it was 1.85 millimoles per liter. And that drop, the majority of that drop was because I cut out the plants. And I cut out the plants. Well, I cut out all carbs. Therefore, nothing was converting into glucose in my liver, causing it to be overworked, causing fatty liver disease to start, and causing everything else to cascade from there. That was because I went and I ate meat. And I remember watching one of Dr. Ken Berry's videos where he said, look, find the meat you enjoy and can afford and start with that. And that's what I did. Out of nowhere, I had this sudden craving for beef, like just fried in the pan. I thought, wait a minute, I love burger patties. Ground beef sounds really nice with a little salt. Now, at the time, I was adding a little bit of mayonnaise and a little bit of mustard. Not a huge amount, I don't know, a teaspoon of it, if that. And eventually I got rid of all the sauces, but that was what I was craving. And so I ate it. And the more I ate meat, and the more I got rid of all the other crap, and the more my blood glucose levels evened out, the more my triglycerides were well within range. So, like, the ideal for your triglycerides, they say that the optimal is 2 millimoles per liter or lower. And I'm at 1.85, or at least I was at 1.85 as of 2021. That's what really mattered. My cholesterol, I was put on statins. My cholesterol came down quite a bit. The LDL, the HDL went up, the LDL came down, but the triglycerides were still well above the acceptable range, even after being put on statins for 6 months. And so the difference really was eating meat. And I thought to myself, well, it's going to cost more. Like, how are we going to do this? I mean, how am I going to do this? I can't expect everyone else to eat the way I eat. And I didn't. So when we were doing groceries, my husband, both the boys were still eating lots of cereal and instant noodles and potato chips. And the one thing I did insist on was no more margarine in the house. Just get rid of it. It's horrible for you. So that was fine. And I would keep some bread and lunch meat in the house. And it was hard because I knew it was not great for them. However, I was not about to push it on them, right? They don't get a say in what I eat. That means I don't get a say in what they choose to eat. I would really find it challenging, though, to watch them eating junk food. Not that they would eat lots of it, But to pick up junk food or soda pop and to not say something, that was hard. But I also knew that I needed to let them ask me what I was doing and why I was doing it so they could then make their own choices. And my younger son was concerned when he saw that I was eating all sorts of bacon and eggs. And I said, yeah, but it is helpful. I mean, look. And, he says, okay, yeah, you're right, mom. You have lost all that weight, all that fat. You win. And so that was because I learned to trust in what God was saying. And there's my older son now. And so for my husband, I've had to let him reach that decision on his own as far as, what he wants to eat, what he will eat, what he won't eat. And so he's actually really trying right now he wants eventually to cut out all his carbs and all sorts of refined and processed stuff. But I'm trying to be patient and have grace because I know that he has to do it gradually because he's tried to do it suddenly and that was really bad for him. He is a type 2 diabetic. He does take metformin. He didn't talk to the GP first. He didn't figure out how to change the amount of metformin he was on first. So when he tried to do it all suddenly at once, like I was doing, it wasn't sustainable for him. But now he's come back to a place where he's ready to try and he wants to be at least, no, you don't, bud. And he wants to at least be less carb. Yep.
Sorry.
So this is my son, Aiden.
Really? You know what?
Well, I'm live streaming, dude. You walked in. I told you I have the sign up.
No, I didn't tell me actually.
Well, Aiden, I have the sign up. Aiden, I had the sign up.
Yeah, it didn't tell me, Mom.
Okay, well, Aiden, I am live streaming. So there. Come here, dog. This is our greyhound. Let's see if he wants to go out for his walk today. Come here, Billy. Billy, what up? Come on. Sorry about that, guys. I'll be right with you. All right. Come on, Billy. Whoosh. Billy, come on. Well, you want out? Nope. Okay. Guess not. He's ready to just chill for the day. All right. So, Aiden, you might want to say goodbye and head on out.
What?
Because I'm still on live. All right. So sorry there, guys. That was Aiden. That was my older son. The one, as I said, has high functioning autism. So he's great. He does try to walk our dogs every day, but he's very much in routine. So as I was saying, I found, for me, carnivore was the best thing that could have happened. And what I realized, though, was that as it cleared up the fog, as it brought me to this place of good health, I realized I need God again. And I needed to surrender and put my trust in him because I had not done that for a very, very long time. And so I was ready to start looking back in his word. I was excited and wanting to spend time praying once again. And at first it was just a few minutes here and there. But when we connected online with a faith community in October, that was it. I was ready. We were both ready to reconnect with God and really put him first. And so it's amazing what he's done in my life. I did not fully heal right then. I didn't. But I would say I had 80% healing from my pain, from the fibro fog, from everything, just within the first few months of eating meat. And it was so amazing to me because I was so excited to be able to walk close to God, to get back into life. And I was still dealing with limited mobility. I still do. But I was reading something today and I realized that something I have done that perhaps all of us do when we have a chronic illness, or whether it's autoimmune, whether it's something like mental health, be it anxiety or depression, whether we are dealing with some trauma in our life. For me, it was the trauma of being bulimic for 35 years. And what I realized was that I don't want that to be what defines me. I want to be defined as a woman of incredible, deep faith. I want to be defined as a woman who puts God first and who happens to have fibromyalgia or happens to have chronic back pain or happens to deal with, you know, anxiety, depression, and an eating disorder. Now, I say that because these are things that I'm in recovery for, which means they can be triggered. There is no cure, as in, it's not never going to be as though I never struggled with these things. But I know when I put God first, I feel like I am winning the battle against these demons, if you will. You know, we all have our demons, we all have our own struggles, and we all have things that we have to deal with ourselves. But the thing I've been so thankful for is just realizing what a great plan God has for life and all the ways He's looking after me. You know, we have some members who have joined our church, and these are mostly women and women with children who have come from sister churches in the Ukraine and who are being sponsored by members out of East London and throughout the London area. And what has happened is there's been a program where people are asked if they would be willing to volunteer and have conversations with these, with these sisters, with these women, to help them practice the English that they were learning, because who knows how long they're going to be here. And if they want to work, if they want to be able to do things, they have to learn how to speak English. So I didn't do it the first time around, which was last summer. But when they were looking for volunteers for this session, which started about a month ago, I just felt this desire in me to go, yeah, you know what? I want to help. I don't have to know Ukrainian. It's just helping them practice it, right? And they have Google Translate, so if they get stuck, they can look it up in Ukrainian and, figure it out in English, etc. And I, from that, have made an incredible new friend. And it just reminded me how lucky I am. She's here. Luckily, she's staying with somebody who's sponsoring her, but her husband, of course, is still back in Odessa. She doesn't know when she'll see him again. And even if they talk every night, it's not the same. My husband and I will be celebrating 25 years of marriage in a couple weeks. And very, very thankful for that. But it reminds me, even if we've had our challenges over the years, I am so thankful because I know He will always come home, or that I will always come home to Him at some point. I cannot even imagine what it's like for her and all these other women to have left sons and brothers and husbands and dads and uncles back in Ukraine to either fight directly or to volunteer in some way. And I don't know when that war is going to end. I mean, none of us do. I hope it ends, of course, sooner than later. But one of the things that I've been able to do is realize that, you know what? I've got my brain back. I'm going to learn to speak Ukrainian. Not because I have to, not because anyone told me to, but because that way, as she's practicing English and I can practice Ukrainian, and we can definitely communicate with each other. But what about the people who come over who don't know any English yet and don't know even how to communicate very well, right? I don't know. I just get a feeling that it's going to call it the spirit nudging me. Just feels like it's something I need to do. But without the healing that I've had, I never would have even attempted it. I know how to speak French. I learned in school, of course, growing up in Canada, but I hadn't practiced it in a while. And over the last 8.5 years, I could barely remember what to say because of the fog in my brain. And now I'm enjoying actually learning another language that will, I hope, be put to good use. I don't know what God's plan is for that, but I'm excited to find out. And as I get to learn a new language, as does she, then she and I can help each other and really even build on our friendship more, which is exciting. But I wouldn't be at this place if it wasn't for God. If I had not reached the point of surrender back in May of 2020 and gone, okay, that's it. Um, I keep getting fatter and more inflamed and feeling more horrible as time goes by, and I can't do this anymore. And even then, even though I wasn't super close with God, there was a thought in my head like, God, please help me. And when paleo, after 2.5 weeks, did not work at all, I just knew I had to find another way. And so I did. I found keto, and then eventually, not too much longer after that, I found carnivore. And that was a game changer. So meat has healed me. It has healed me where I can pray and be grateful and thankful every single day that I'm alive, which uh, is amazing as far as I'm concerned. Um, I can get outdoors, and even if I'm in my electric wheelchair, I still get out. I get to be out. The last few days, it's been between 10 and 14 degrees. It's been amazing, especially for February. It's been fantastic. And to just be out and feeling joyful and grateful just to be outside. Wow. And then to see how God is working in such incredible ways, unbelievable. I am able to, like I said, it may not seem like a lot, but able to sit with proper posture, which I could not do until recently, never mind standing straight, being able to sit here without my neck pillow the whole time. That's a first. Um, having not, I'm not going to say I'm completely 100% gut healed in my gut because I'm not, but I'm probably 90% there. And I think once the dairy is completely gone, I will see that dramatically get better. So that's my plan anyways. That's my hope. But I'm actually not just going through the exercises of trying to learn a new language, but I'm actually retaining words and things, which again, a few years ago, forget it. I never would have been possible. So for me, the changes I'm having and seeing and enjoying, it's not just the physical, although that's great. That is totally amazing. But I feel most days mentally more than anything else. When I wake up grateful and filled with a purpose and wanting to walk with God and start my day and see what happens. And to share it all with you guys. That to me is amazing because I never, ever, ever would have thought that could happen. There's no way. No, stop saying that. It's ridiculous. It's never going to happen. But it did. And to me, that's a sign of an amazing and powerful God, truly healing. And I realized, you know what? If he's healed me, it may take a while because I was injured and in unimaginable pain for 7 years before the pain even started to ease slightly. But that doesn't mean it can't go away. And instead of just accepting, hey, that's it, that's my life, I can't go anywhere, I like to think that I will just continue to get better. I've had a few mornings now where I've actually awakened with zero stiffness in my back or legs. I have not had that in over 8 years. I literally at one point I was, I don't know, 2 a.m. and the dogs needed out. So I got up to let out the dogs. And imagine my shock when I had let them out, came back, let them back in and went back to bed and went, oh my goodness, I wasn't sore right then. I wasn't stumbling because my legs are stiff. Holy smokes. Oh my goodness, that didn't hurt. I never thought I would ever say that. For how long this is going to last, I don't know. But I do know God is a great healer and he wants me to be healed. He wants me to have less pain and to get better. What that means, like getting better than what? Than what I was? Well, that I've reached that point. How much more healing? I don't know. But if I don't pray about it, if I don't try to do the things to help me move towards that, I certainly won't ever experience it. I want to be able to walk freely, not just around my house, but in general, without a crutch, without a wheelchair. I want to be able to walk to town without agony in my back. I want to be able to stand up and sing with the congregation on a Sunday and not have to sit every time. I know that that part is not up to me entirely, but I feel really positive that that might actually happen, whereas I never, ever thought it would happen before. That's why I say, I'm just going to get ready here to close out, but that's why I say meat is healing. It got rid of all of the crap, or 90% of the inflammation and the pain and the brain fog. So meat is the medicine, but God is the healer. And I am so excited. I can't wait to see what he does next, how he helps me next. I know that there's even more coming that he has planned for me. So anyways, guys, sorry, I didn't realize it had been going on for so long, but I'm so thankful to all of you who checked in, who watched, who stayed. Thank you so much. And yeah, I hope this is helpful. If you're not at this point, that's cool, because I wasn't either. There were days I barely felt like I could get out of bed, but I was in so much pain laying down, I had to get up. So I have been there, and it certainly did not happen instantly, and it's still not even 100% that I'm fully healed. But boy, I'm getting better. It's amazing. It's amazing. God is incredible, and he continues to heal me every day. Thank you guys for all of your support and all of your encouragement. Thank you for watching. And please feel free to share this with anybody you think it might encourage or help. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.